Valentine's Day Wisdom. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Rumi. Reynard the Fox stood atop the ridge, his fur a spark of russet against the waning winter. He had long believed love was a prize to be hunted, a hidden cache buried beneath the frost. Yet, the vastness of the silent woods only mirrored the hollow space within his chest. He realized that to find a companion, he first had to understand the walls he'd constructed around his own heart. Love is a friendship set to music. Joseph Campbell. Reynard was a creature of the silver woods, a solitary soul who navigated the frost with a quiet grace. He had long believed that the melody of the forest was a solo performance, played out in the rhythmic crunch of snow and the whistling of the north wind. Yet, as the midwinter sun hung low, a new cadence began to hum in his heart, a yearning for a harmony he had never known. Love is the only gold. Alfred Lord Tennyson. To find another in the vastness of the winter wilderness required more than sight. It required a belief in the impossible. Reynard watched the frost patterns on the creek, seeing in their intricate lattices the complexity of connection. He realized that to find love, one must first be willing to be found, standing stark against the landscape of his own isolation. Love does not consist in gazing at each other, but in looking outward together in the same direction. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Reynard once met a vixen named Isolde, whose coat shone like burnished copper. They spent hours admiring their reflections in the frozen pond, captivated by the superficial symmetry of their youth. But when the wind howled and the trail grew steep, she looked only at her own paws. Reynard saw then that a mirror is a poor substitute for a window, and vanity is not the same as a shared vision. The heart has its reasons, which reason knows nothing of. Blaise Pascal. He wandered near the village outskirts, where the humans hung red paper hearts from their eaves. From the shadows, Reynard watched them, puzzled by their frantic gestures and sugary tokens. He sought a logic to the madness of the heart, a map to navigate the sudden flutter in his pulse when the moon hung low. Love, he suspected, was not a riddle to be solved by the mind, but a mystery to be lived by the spirit. Love is an untamed force. When we try to control it, it destroys us. When we try to imprison it, it enslaves us. Paulo Coelho. As the waters receded, he watched the great birds of the river move in a synchronized drift. They did not cling or constrain. They moved with an invisible thread of trust. Reynard sat on the muddy bank, realizing that love required room to breathe. To love truly was to hold with open paws, allowing the other the freedom of the sky while remaining a port in the storm. What is a friend? A single soul dwelling in two bodies. Aristotle. It was under the budding boughs of an ancient willow that he first encountered Isolde. She was not the brightest or the loudest, but her presence felt like the first warm day after a long frost. She did not ask him for his trophies or his stories. She simply sat beside him and watched the river flow. In that shared stillness, the air felt lighter, as if the world had finally found its equilibrium. Silence is the perfect herald of joy. I were but little happy, if I could say how much. William Shakespeare. They began to travel through the thawing woods without a word. Isolde moved with a quiet confidence that matched his own, her movements a steady rhythm that complemented the awakening earth. Reynard found that he didn't need to perform or protect. They existed in a rare harmony where the silence wasn't a void, but a conversation that required no vocabulary, only presence. Love consists in this, that two solitudes protect and border and salute each other. Rainer Maria Rilke. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the clouds in bruised purples and fiery oranges, they did not huddle in fear of the coming dark. Instead, they sat at a respectful distance, acknowledging each other's strength and individual journey. Reynard realized that Isolde's spirit was a land he was invited to visit, not a territory he was meant to conquer. The minute I heard my first love story, I started looking for you, not knowing how blind that was. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. Rumi. They weathered a sudden spring rain beneath the shelter of a rocky overhang. The scent of wet earth and pine needles filled the air. As the droplets fell, Reynard looked at Isolde and saw not a stranger, but a reflection of the peace he had been trying to build within himself. The hunt was over, not because he had caught something, but because he had stopped running. Where we love is home, home that our feet may leave, but not our hearts. Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. They found shelter in a dry cave lined with soft, fragrant moss. As the storm raged outside, the warmth of their bodies created a sanctuary. Reynard looked at Isolde and saw not just a partner, but a homecoming. The long winter of his solitude had ended, not because the sun had returned, but because he had found the one soul who made the cold bearable. Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. Maya Angelou. On Valentine's morning, the forest awoke to a brilliant, golden light. The frost that had once hardened the world had turned into a shimmering dew. Reynard and Isolde stood at the edge of the woods, looking out at the world together. The journey had been long, marked by frost and doubt, but the wisdom he gained was simple. Where there is love, there is life. Mahatma Gandhi. As the first Valentine's moon rose full and ivory over the forest, the two foxes set out across the crust of the snow. The journey ahead would have its storms and its hungers, but the path was no longer a solitary line. It was a shared trail, two sets of prints, marking a single story of survival, wisdom, and a love that turned the deepest winter into an eternal spring. To love truly is the courage to be seen, the strength to be vulnerable, and the grace to walk together into the light. Reynard took a step forward, no longer a hunter of shadows, but a participant in the dawn. Beside him, Isolde matched his pace. The barriers were gone, not because the world had changed, but because they had finally opened their hearts to the vast, beautiful mystery of being known.